Well, the Spurs are back at it in the Western Conference Finals, set to face a familiar foe. Welcome to the Spurs Roundtable, powered by Project Spurs. I am your host, Jeff Garcia, and alongside of me to talk about the Western Conference Finals and Thunder once again is the Project Spurs Army, and this is what I like to call them. Aaron, Preine, Stephen Anderson, and our newest member, Madalyn Mendoza.
Glad to be here.
Oh, you're welcome. Well, here we go again, Oklahoma versus San Antonio, a rematch, with 2012. Which didn't go too well for us. But anyway, we won't talk about that.
Let's not mention that.
Let's not talk about that. But here we are. And I guess the biggest news is Serge Ibaka. He is out for the entire postseason with a calf injury. Right away, Stephen, your thoughts?
You know, Serge Ibaka is a huge presence in the paint for the Thunder. He's provided some matchup problems with Tony Parker in the paint in recent memory. 2012, you mentioned. He was a huge factor, going 11 for 11 in one game. Yeah. So he is a huge loss for the Thunder in their big three.
Right.
So it's a big loss.
Well, it's a combination of that athleticism and just skill around the board that Ibaka gives. And it's not so much as about the shots that he contends in the paint. It's about the shots that opposing teams just don't take. Right. I mean, this is a guy that averaged 12, 10, and 3 against the Spurs in his career. And it's just like Stephen said, it's about more about his defensive prowess than it is about stats.
So with the loss of Ibaka defensively, does that give the Spurs a little bit of an edge now?
I don't think so, not much, because they have a pretty good backup for him. They have pretty good backup. So even though he does contend a lot of shots.
Yeah, I'm going to have to disagree with you right there. Perkins and Adams, I don't know about that, but I mean,
well, Adams is a very, even though he's a rookie, he's a very solid rookie for them. Perkins doesn't really do much for me.
Perkins is a liability against the Spurs, but Adams and Collison are both great. They both play well against San Antonio. They're both hustle guys. They can crash the boards. They're big bodies. They give Duncan a lot of fits. Splitter as well. So I mean, they don't have the range that Perkins can provide, but it is still a bit of a challenge for them in the paint.
Yeah, it's not something to kind of count on that we're going to do so much better without him.
Well, I mean, this definitely opens up the lane. Does it for the guards of San Antonio, in particular Manu Ginobili and Tony Parker?
Right. It does, and I mean, we've all said it already. Ibaka's defense is going to be missed for the Thunder, but do not count out Adams, don't count Perkins, Collison.
Well, Adams does have to play a little bit with an edge. He tends to get under your skin, right?
He gets in foul trouble, though. So.
Yeah, so I mean, he does. You're right. He does get in foul trouble a lot. So that also is going to be key for the Thunder to keep him out of foul trouble. And I think if the Spurs are smart, have our guards attack him early.
So what do you think the Spurs are going to do? I mean, how are you going to prepare for a Thunder team less one of their big three?
No, they're just going to do what Pop has always said. They're going to play their game, and they're going to move the ball a lot. They're going to be very active. They're going to be very aggressive, and the Thunder's going to have a hard time keeping them out of the lanes. Now, the thing is, what's really important for San Antonio is that they do get Danny Green and Manu Ginobili and Marco Bellinelli to get those shots going from the outside. They can't have those guys just vanish like they did in series past in this playoffs.
Right. Well, you know, speaking of vanishing, Manu Ginobili didn't look too good in the series versus Portland. I think if you go out to ProjectSpurs.com, there's a good article from Paul Garcia about Manu's disappearance. But you know, we need Manu to be Manu. We don't need him to be what we saw last year in the NBA Finals. And I think even he admitted it himself in an interview, or actually a column that he has in the Argentina website, where he says, I need to find my game again. Are we seeing 2013 Manu?
I think we might be, but I think Super Manu, he's going to come back this series. I think once he get Manu mad, he makes up for it, and he's going to come back this series.
All right, well, he's shaking his head.
No, because if you look at it, you're right, Jeff. 2013 Finals was hell.
They put on Ginobili. I mean,
yeah, it was hell. 9 turnovers, I believe it was game 6 or 7. One of those 2 games was 9 turnovers.
You're hurting Madalyn.
I'm a big Manu fan.
And it's her first day. No, but I mean, you know, the thing is with Manu, it's like, I think it's all mental with him. We saw with Marco Bellinelli against Dallas, he struggled. Now we're seeing Manu struggle in Series 2. How will those two adjust to the Thunder this series? That's what I'm going to be looking at. And if Manu is going to be the Manu we've seen, Spurs might be in trouble.
Yeah. Well, Manu was saying that he definitely needed the rest because the first series against Dallas just wiped him out. And he looked physically drained against the Blazers. But the thing is, what we saw in the Dallas series is that Manu was able to step up when others weren't able to step up.
Hang on right there. Well, you just said it right now. He was physically drained in the Dallas series.
Heading into 7-game series, yes.
Heading into the Portland series, okay? Didn't look himself. Now we're going against the Thunder. Yes, they don't have Ibaka. However, if that thing goes to 7 games, project that out for Manu, he may be looking drained in the NBA Finals.
Yep, that's true.
He even tweeted about
there will
that.
be a little bit more. They do tend to, schedule-wise, they tend to space things out a little bit more as it goes on. This will play in Manu and the vets' favors. But the thing is with Manu, and I think we're seeing it this postseason, is that he's stepping up when he needs to step up. Because when the Spurs are playing like the Spurs, like we saw against Portland, he doesn't need to be scoring 15, 20 points a game. He doesn't need to be the wild, crazy Manu. He just needs to be sustainable. He needs to play good defense and not turn the ball over 8, 9 times.
Madeline, you were saying that he mentioned something on Twitter?
He tweeted that he hashtagged this old man needs rest or something like that on Twitter. So it's kind of scary to see that he's admitting it. But
you're right, yeah. Well, then when it comes right down to it, then who is your X factor? When you're looking at this series as a whole now we don't have Ibaka to worry about. Who's going to be your X factor? Sorry, Madeline.
I think our X factor is going to be the entire bench.
All right, why?
I think our bench needs to come out, be consistent, prove that they're the best bench in the league, one of the best benches in the league.
I think Portland knows about that. Right?
Yeah. We're Rip City. But yeah, our bench is going to be the X factor.
All right, Steve.
We Rip City. I like that. I would have to agree with her. Say the bench because the starters, you know what they can do. But if the bench is going to struggle like they did against the Mavericks, it's going to be a very long series, and the bench needs to bring it starting on Monday.
It's got to be, for me, the guards on defense because the Spurs have had no answer for Russell Westbrook. I mean, Kawhi Leonard is going to match up well against Durant. He's going to slow him down. You can't stop the man. But we've had no answer for Russell Westbrook whatsoever. So it's going to be after the defensive play of Danny Green, Manu Ginobili, and even Marco Bellinelli.
All right, Tony Parker brought it versus Damian Lillard. Are we talking about an entire beast now with
it's a different beast because he's a more physical player, he's a bigger player, he's a stronger player. He has a multiple faceted game, and just Ibaka missing is going to be a huge difference for them just because they're not going to have as strong as a pick and roll game. But his speed and his athleticism and his strength, I mean, he doesn't look like he's had 2 knee surgeries.
Right.
One thing I want to add to that is that with Lillard, this is his rookie time in the playoffs. His first time in the playoffs. He really had no experience. Now he does. Russell Westbrook has that experience. He's more of as Aaron said, more of an explosive player. He can bring it both on defense and offense. So it's going to be a challenge for Tony, I think.
And he's also just a beast on the boards. He's one of the best rebounding guards in the NBA, and that's one of the things that have killed the Spurs in the past.
Right. Well, I'm actually going to go with Tiago Splitter. I think we don't have to contend with Ibaka now. All eyes are going to be on what the Spurs are going to do in the paint. Duncan, Splitter.
The big man.
Yeah. We know what Duncan's going to do. He's going to bring it. Okay. But can Splitter sustain this high-level play that he's shown in this postseason?
Came out of nowhere.
Yeah, he came out of nowhere, yeah.
One thing I want to see, though, is how the Spurs contain Reggie Jackson, because for some reason, every time the Spurs...
Yeah, he loves black and silver jerseys, doesn't he?
Yes, he does. And I want to see how the Spurs are going to contain him starting with Game 1, because they've seemed to have no answer for him. Now, the last game that the Spurs played with Thunder in the regular season, he only had 15 points. So I don't know if it's because he was struggling. I don't know. But right now, that's my concern. Even though Ibaka's out, the Thunder's still a very, very dangerous team.
All right, well, those are our thoughts right there on the series as a whole, from the X Factor to what we're going to deal with Ibaka not in the paint now for the Spurs to worry. But, before we close, and, I can't leave these guys, hanging there. I got to put them on record right now. Game 1 is tomorrow in San Antonio. Spurs have home court advantage. There is no Ibaka. Manu is aware Super Manu is aware that he needs to step up the game. So it's time for predictions. Start off with Aaron. What do you think, Aaron?
Well, prediction for the game or for the series?
For the series.
For the series, before the Ibaka news, I had Spurs in a very, very tight 7 games. Now I'm thinking 6.
Spurs in 7.
I say Spurs in 7 as well.
I got Spurs in 5.
Well,
yeah. Okay. Yeah. Just let me explain. I think that the loss of Ibaka is really going to hurt them, and I think we saw what the Spurs guards have been doing, especially Tony Parker is playing out of his mind right now. Patty Mills, that lane is going to be pretty wide open unless Perkins starts being Perkins and start throwing bodies on the floor. But I think the loss of Ibaka is really, really going to surface in this series. You can probably get away with that in the first rounds they had, maybe against the Clippers, and the other teams. But this is OKC. They cannot have a full healthy squad versus the Spurs. But I'm just worried about no asterisk talk. If the Spurs go, well, you didn't face a Thunder team at full strength. So,
you know you're going to hear that.
Yeah.
For every championship team, no matter what season, there's always a bit of luck that somebody could point to.
Yes.
You have to have talent, you have to have
Well,
help,
how many
and you
times
have
have
to
the
have luck.
Spurs gotten injured? Some Spurs, Tim Duncan got hurt.
Right.
You know, Manu Ginobili played with a
There's
broken
always
elbow.
something. There's always something, no
Injuries
matter
are a
what
part of it.
team.
Injuries are a part of it. Every team, whether it's the Spurs, whoever it is going to have an injury on their team. And the way I see it, the real championship teams are the ones that can fight through it and win.
Heart of the champion.
Yep.
That's right, yeah. So, anybody want to change their predictions before we close?
I still say 7.
You still say
And
7?
I say Manu is going to come back fighting. He's going to prove everybody wrong.
I
Look.
say 7. The only reason I say it, the bench. They've shown they're inconsistent. If they can step it up and
Whose
beat
bench?
Spurs bench.
Okay.
If the Spurs bench can be consistent and stop the Thunder bench, specifically Reggie Jackson, then I like the Spurs' chances. But it's too inconsistent for me to give a solid other prediction than that.
All
I
right.
agree.
All right. Well, those are our predictions, so I hope you wrote them down so we can always come back to these guys and see how they did. But for the crew here, for Aaron Preine, Stephen Anderson, Madalyn Mendoza, I'm Jeff Garcia. Thanks again for watching the Spurs Roundtable. Spurs in 5, guys.
Spurs in 7.
Spurs in 7.
I would rather be 5.
5 and 7.
I'm 5.